stampers and crafty friends, welcome to Bello's Designs. My name is Catherine, and tonight we're going to be creating this card that I like to call Looking for Spring. We'll need a few stamps to get us started. We'll be using the LAV 857 Field Moss. We'll be using the stones from that set along with the floral. We'll also be using the small branch from LAV 679 Foliage Set. Scout Small, LAV 859, and the Fairy Towns, which is LAV 768. I've also pre-cut some cardstock, and I have those measurements for you, so we'll be using the multifarious cardstock. You'll need a piece that's 3 3/8 by 6.5 inches. I also have a background matte piece cut at 3.5 by 6 3/4. And then I've chosen to use a black card base with this, but you could use whatever you like. And I have this cut at 6 3/4 by 7 and then scored at 3.5 inches. Okay, we're also going to need a variety of pens and pencils. So we will be using our Posca pen in pink, and I also have mine in blue, so we'll add some details with those. I'll be using my gold Jelly Roll pen to add a little sparkle to Scout's wings. I'm going to be using 3 Stabilo chalk pencils, and I have pulled out my white, my brown to color in the signs, and then some black to add a little bit of gray detail to the stones. I also have 2 watercolor pencils, one in gray for the stones and the other one is brown for the sign. I have also gone ahead and grabbed my Micron pen in case we need to color in any details. It's always good to have that on hand, and we may or may not use it. Okay, we'll also be using the Lavinia stickers. And I have the set 6 sentiment stickers, and I'm going to be choosing a phrase from the black sticker sets. All right, let's go ahead and talk about our ink pads that we're going to need today. We'll be stamping with VersaFine Clair in Nocturne. We'll be using a variety of Lisa Horton inks in the Cloud 9. So I'm going to start by using the Juicy Pineapple right in the middle of our background. You'll get to see me do that. After the Juicy Pineapple, we'll be using the Cloud 9 Sugar Candy, which is a bright pink. It blends nicely with the yellow to give us a really fun peachy color. We'll be using Cloud 9 Deep Ocean, which is a medium blue. We'll also be using Sweet Violet, which is a bright purple. And lastly, we'll be using our Interference ink pad, and I have chosen the Mermaid Lagoon. That'll add a little bit of depth and shimmer at the end of our card. You'll want your blending brushes to go with all of your ink pads. And I also have pre-mixed my Dinkles. You might have seen me do this in a previous video, but I have gone ahead and created a spray bottle full of the pink and another one in Lime Divine, and these are great to have them pre-made because you can spray them on top of your projects, but you could also they're already mixed up, so it's just easy to pour them into a palette. So we'll be using our palette and our fan brush to add a little bit of sprinkles to the background of our card. So we can go ahead and get started. The first thing I'm going to do is blend my background, and I have my cardstock, and I just like to turn it sideways because I'm going to be working in the middle of the card. So I'll be blending the yellow in the middle, and then I'm going to work my way out. All right, so we'll be starting with the Juicy Pineapple. And I like to ink up my brush, and I don't really wash these. I mean, occasionally I do, but I try to stick with the same colors. So I'm just going to rub off any extra because I don't want any lines from the edge. So I just like to ink it up really well and then dab off a little bit of extra on the side. And then I come in with the edge of my blending brush and get right into the middle. And you can take your time doing this because, you know, you can always add a little more ink if you need it, but as we all know, it's hard to take it off if we've put too much on. So I like to go with a really light hand and sort of towards the edge of my brush to get started. And that looks good. I can always add more after if I need to. And I'm gonna move from my yellow to the sugar candy, which is a bright pink. And you'll see when we mix the sugar candy with the yellow, the beautiful shade of orange that creates. This is one of the things that I really like about the Lisa Horton inks, is how they blend together and create different shades. So with just a few ink pads, you can get lots of different colors and really a fun look. Get a little smudge there, but we'll be able to blend that out. See that bright orange? It's really just a fun way to play around with your inks and colors. I built it up a little bit there. I think I'm going to add just a little bit more on this side, and then we'll be able to add our purple and our blue. This really is a quick card that comes together. So I'm going to do the blue just on across the side and a little bit on the top, and then I'm going to use the purple just down the other side and across the bottom. I really like how that balanced out the look of my card. So, I want to make sure I'm using the right brushes. There we go. All right. I probably should use the label maker and start labeling these. All right, this is the blue that we want. So again, I'm going to start on the edge of the card and just come right onto the card. And we'll come down the side. We'll be coming in at the very end with the interference ink that will darken everything up and kind of bring all those edges together. All right, I'm gonna move from the blue to the sweet violets. And again, that blue is in Deep Ocean. This is a very bright purple, which is kind of fun to play with. All right, and we'll be starting up here. I'm gonna want it a little bit, this is gonna be the top of my card where I'll have the branches. So I'm gonna want it a little bit darker. But I think you're gonna like the play of the interference ink over these darker colors and just the fun look it gives your card. that's a pretty good start to our base, and we'll be doing some stamping and coloring on top of all of that. All right, turn this over and give us a nice clean background to work with. And on this card, I really recommend starting with the Fairy Towns as the stamp and get it as close to the edge as you can, because it's a little bit of a tight fit. So I like to hold my stamp upside down and then use my ink pad on top of it just to tap it on there a little bit. It gives me a little bit more control so that I'm not really trying not to get any ink on my block, although sometimes that does happen, but just makes it easy to smear your project, and we want a nice, neat project. Now, I don't want the fairy sign to be, or the fairy towns to be too high up, so I'm going to stamp off the bottom of my card a little bit, and again, just getting this as close to the edge as I can. Press it down. Oops, knock that over with my head. All right. There we go. That's a pretty nice stamp. Just clean that off. And then I'm going to move on to Scouts. So again, I'm going to hold my block upside down, and I'll just tap the ink lightly, trying not to get it on the block or anywhere on that stamp that I don't want it to be. Now this takes a little bit of careful placement because we're going to try to get her wings in between these two towns, and without going over the side of the card. So excuse my head if it's in the way, but it's a pretty close fit here. Okay, I think I managed to get that in there pretty well. All right, oh, she's got a little smudge on her, so that's where our pen comes in, but I'm going to wait a little bit to do that and just kind of give our stamped image a little blot to make sure we don't have any smears or smudges later on as we're working with that image. So, all right. You might see a little bit of glitter on here. I was working with some glitter yesterday on some cards, and you know, the glitter is the gift that keeps on giving, so it's everywhere, even though I've really tried to clean it off. I'm going to clean off that stamp. Again, I do like to try to clean them off as soon as I use them, especially when I'm using the VersaFine Clear, because that is an oil-based ink, and we really just want to get it right off of there, but I find that it cleans off really well. So if you've never used the VersaFine Clear, it has quickly become my favorite black ink to work with. All right, now I'm going to go ahead, and I think the next part I'm going to do is just a few stones around her feet to ground her at the bottom of the card. And somehow she ended up a little bit higher up on my example, but you know, that's the beauty of hand-stamped cards, is that no two are ever exactly alike. So we'll be coloring some of that in. Give it a little bit of a, so we don't have to worry that it's very bright around that. Okay, so we've got the stones. Well, all right, yeah. I was going to say we're only missing one stamp, but there's actually two more that we want to use. So I'm going to come in with the floral stamp from the Field Moss set, and we're going to put a few of those in and around the side. And I'm going to use the Sweet Violet Cloud 9 ink to get a little bit of color on there. I really wanted to show you how you could use the Lisa Horton inks with your Lavinia stamps, if you're looking for something new and a little bit different. Where should we put this? I think it's going to go here at her feet. And do maybe a little bit coming in from the side. And coming out of the stones at the bottom. Maybe I'll do one more right up here. Okay. So I was going to put that away, but we actually need this ink pad with our branches that we're going to have coming in from the top. So this is a fun little branch to use, and you can really build with it. So I'm going to start down here because I really want to balance the top of that. So we'll be doing lots of these and building them up. And it will, when we're done, be looking like a tree or maybe some purple lightning in the sky. And I'll do some second generation stamping there also to fill it in a little bit. I think I got a little bit of ink on my finger, so let's go in here and cover that up. Maybe a little bit more from the top. One more here. All right, I'm going to wipe this off, but I'm not done with this stamp because I actually am going to add a few more in the VersaFine Clair just to darken it up a little bit. And stamp off a little. And that will add a little bit of depth to our tree. There we go, and I think I like how that looks. I don't want to overdo it, so I'm going to stop there. And I'm going to clean off my stamp. And this is a good time to use the dinkles. So let me get my paper towel. And I'm going to move this out of the way for a moment. And we'll be adding some of the pink. Like I said, it's already mixed up. I don't know why I'm shaking it because it doesn't have any mica or anything like that in it. So right now it's more like a watercolor. But the Lisa Horton inks are reactive to water. So it's going to give it a nice little effect. Let me add just a little bit of these to the background. We'll get a nice speckled look. All right, those are ready to go. And are you like me? Do you reuse paper towels? I try not to actually buy them and use them very much. I don't like to use things that I just am going to throw away, but you know, sometimes that just happens, right? Just give it a little bit of sprinkle at the top, not too much. Dip it in there just a little bit. Just a little bit of splatter. I think that is good. I'm going to rinse out my brush. Just wipe that up a little bit. Okay, and then I'm going to move to the green, and we're going to do just a little bit of green onto that card. And then we'll wipe that up. Okay. So rinse off that fan brush. Just wipe up that green. And you might want to let the green just kind of sit there. Yeah, I really like the brightness of that, so I think I'm going to leave it like that. So I'm going to put this all over to the side. And at this point, I'm going to come in with the Mermaid Lagoon Shimmer Interference ink. And if you haven't used these yet, these are very cool ink pads. The color on this side is the color that you would get on a piece of white paper, and then the color on the other side is what you would get on black. So I'm going to ink up my brush, and this will give us lots of depth. Oops, got a little bit of that on my finger. Clean that off. Okay. This is going to give us that kind of nighttime magical look. Just get it really inked up. And just come in and darken this up over here in the corners. Work it up here. See what I mean? That's really, really giving it a little bit of depth and a little bit of extra darkness. And I don't know if the camera's really going to pick this up, but in person it just gives it a really nice shimmer. Right. And we'll darken it up a little bit over here on this side. And bring that down into the branches of our tree. And maybe a little bit in the corner down here too. I think I'm going to try to stay away from those little stones because we're going to come in and color them. So I just like how this has added a little bit of darkness again to those darker colors. All right, I think we're going to leave it with like that. And the next thing I'm going to do is just come in and color the signs with my brown watercolor and the stones with my black. that's coming out, I think it is time to come in with our gel pen. And I'm going to just color in her wings. And we'll come back with the Posca pens and add a few little details to the card. I do like how the background is showing through her wings, so I think I'm not going to color them. I'm just going to go back in with the gold. There we go. When we're working with fairies, we like lots of glitter, don't we? Mm-hmm. Touch that little bit right there. I just colored out of the lines there a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to come in with the pink, and I'm going to add just some little details just to make it look like there's some little pink sparkly flowers growing in between our field moss. And I don't think we need to do very many. A few along the rocks is good. Maybe one in here. This is just a nice filler. Add them in a couple of spots. Maybe one here behind Scout. Now, if you wanted to, you could draw in a few little stems. So I think I'll do that. Just so they don't look like they're floating. All right. And on my original, I added just some little speckles of blue around the top. So I'm going to go back and do that on this one. Just some little sparkly highlights in the sky. And we're just about done. I'm only going to do it on that top corner. All right, what do you think? All right, I think it's time to glue our card together. Oh, there was one trick that actually, now that I'm thinking about it, I do want to share with you. All right, I wanted to share a trick with you that I've been using to make sure that my stickers are not crooked when I'm putting them on my card. So I'm going to use a little bit of low-tack painter's tape, and I'm going to I'm going to use it to hold my card on my mat and make sure it's lined up. I'm going to use the grid on my mat to make sure that my card is lined up evenly, and this just keeps it from moving while I'm trying to work with it. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is sort of decide where exactly I want to place my sticker, and I think this is about a good area. So what I found is that I can really use the grid on my mat to make sure that my cards, so that I can make sure that my sticker is straight on my card. So I'm going to hold this down. And please excuse my head if that's in the way, but it does help me actually to place it. So I've found that these stickers are very sticky, and once you place them down, you're committed. think that looks pretty straight. What do you think? All right, I'm going to put it all together and then we'll be back. All right, here we are with our finished card. This is the one that we made together tonight, and I chose the sticker that says "See the Lights." And here's my original with the magical things. And I just really love how this came out. If you haven't tried the Lisa Horton inks, I'm going to highly recommend them. I just love how they blend together, and with a few colors, you can get so many different looks. Thanks for stamping with me tonight. See you soon.